Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. At around 11:50 last night, I finished reading As the Wicked Watch by Tamron Hall. This book I gave a 5 stars at the immediate conclusion of reading. However, for reasons that I will reveal towards the end of this book, I have actually knocked that score down to a 4 star. Still a very good score, still a very good read. There was just one thing that I wanted from this book that I did not get that was a non-negotiable for me, and because of that I knocked it down, but I could not knock it down any lower than a 4 star because of the sheer enjoyability and me remembering that before I realized that this element from the book was missing, I was going to give that book a 5 stars. For those who have not become familiar with this book, As the Wicked Watch is a murder mystery following the main character Jordan, who is a reporter at Action News 8. She herself follows the case of a Macy James who was brutally unalived and raped and mutilated and left to rot at a park. This book is about Jordan's journey through finding evidence and clues and learning more things about the situation, and her ultimate goal is to figure out what happened to Macy James. So before we begin, I would like to lay down some major characters that we should keep in mind. To first lay down Jordan. Jordan is a reporter who lives alone at an apartment. At her apartment, she frequently has interactions with a security guard named Base. Base is not actually his real name, but it's a nickname of sorts. And Jordan and Base have a found sibling relationship. Next is Pamela Alonzo. Pamela is the mother of Macy James. Next is Louise. Louise is a neighborhood activist who has close ties to Pamela James. And Yvonne. Yvonne is the cousin, the older adult cousin of Macy James. On my very dirty phone, I have some notes about the things that I've noticed throughout the book. I took them as I was reading the book, and in chronological order, we will discuss the things that I noticed in this book that I thought were interesting and that I thought were clever. So the first is the way that Jordan interacts with the misogynistic commissioner. Jordan is very conscious of two things. She is conscious that she is a woman in a male-dominated field, and she is conscious of the fact that she is Black in a white-dominated field. Jordan has this interaction with a commissioner who is describing Louise. Jordan wants to get into contact with Louise, so she goes through this commissioner to get her contact information and address. And so throughout the conversation that Jordan has with this commissioner, she notices that he refers to Louise in ways that she does not find pleasing and that she actually finds misogynistic. The commissioner is very verbally aggressive towards Louise because of her persistence and aggression herself for getting things done in the town. For example, the park that Macy James was left to rot and die in. She consistently blew up the spot about getting the park cleaned and redone. And she consistently said that that park would become a ground for crime. And it happened. So was she right? Yes. So needless to say, Louise was right about something. And to our knowledge at the time, Louise has done nothing to garner insult from the commissioner. And yet, because Jordan understood her position in the hierarchy, she understood that she would not be able to call the commissioner out on his misogynistic remarks because he had the power to destroy her career if he so chose. And so Jordan made it very clear that there were battles that she could fight outright, but there were also battles that she fought by stroking men's ego, which I understand. It's something that she just had to do because of where she stands in the caste system of her career. Another thing that this book addressed that I really liked was the mishandling of Black women and girls' cases. This book brought to attention that a lot of Black women and girls' cases, if they go missing, will be mislabeled as runaways instead of missing. that even though they do not fit the profile of a runaway, they have a very happy home life. They have a very successful career life, a very fulfilling academic life. Even though they do not fit the profile of a runaway, they still get labeled as a runaway. For example, Macy James in this book was labeled a runaway for 3 weeks. 3 weeks precedes the mandatory 48 hours. And in my opinion, I feel like 48 hours is still too long because somebody could easily be dead by 48 hours. I think that, and maybe this is me biting off more I can chew, putting my neck in places that it doesn't belong, but I feel like the 48-hour runaway time limit thing is so that the police can delay doing their job for as long as they can. But I digress. Which leads me to another thing, the adultification of Black girls. So in this book, they address that a lot of Black girls will be seen as older or fast, when in all actuality, they are victims of grooming, of statutory, of sex trafficking, and yet they will be labeled as fast and, as prostitutes and as all these other things instead of the victims that they are, because people have this disgusting viewpoint where they see Black girls as older than what they really are. They adultify Black girls. And I believe that this was very well addressed in this book. Which brings me to a character I like. Her name was April. I forgot her last name. But April is a white suburban mom from Aurora, which I'm assuming is a neighboring Illinois city. And so she is a leader of a group. I believe the group is called Women Against Violence. I believe it's Women Against Violence. Something like that. I apologize. But she said on record, on the camera, that if it was, one of her white children, that there would be much more urgency put into the case. And I absolutely believe that is true, because it is true that the system sees white children, especially white girls, as more likely to be a victim than they would, brown and Black girls. And so we met April at the vigil. So I would like to talk about the vigil. The vigil in this book reminded me that Black people have such a strong sense of community. Black people have such a strong sense of community. We are the same race of people that call each other brother and sister, right? And it was so beautiful to me that in the book, and it didn't feel forced, it didn't feel unrealistic, but that in the book, little girls who did not even know Macy James came to the vigil. People who did not know Macy James came to the vigil. Just a big group of Black people, plus April, her crew. And it just reminded me that past literature, but in real life, we have such a strong sense of community and fellowship with each other. A few weeks ago, maybe just 2 weeks ago, I went to the candlelight of a young man I did not even know. And it was my very first candlelight. And why did I go? Because I empathize with the death of another person, and I don't have to be blood to go to a candlelight and be there and cry and hug people and help put the candles down and help pick the candles up and put the disposable candles in the trash, things like that. This book reminded me that as a race, we value community so much, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Speaking of community, I have a chapter 8 quote from Jordan, and it reads as follows. I reluctantly declined, but her offer legitimized a need in me to be seen as one of them. For context, before the vigil, Jordan went to, I believe it was Louise's house. She went to someone's house. It was a pre-gathering of sorts, and she went to the house to do an interview with the people who were gathered there. And so they were all Black, by the way, but they had food. Everybody brought food. There were plates. Everybody was making sure everybody ate. And of course, Jordan is Black, as we aforementioned, but the difference between Jordan and the Black people of the community of whom she works in is that reporters, basically the news, the police, are seen as other. because jobs like journalism jobs and police jobs work to expose the secrets of communities. And so, because Black people are so community oriented, we find ourselves to be really conserved. We're conserved in our families. We don't, tell people things that are going on in our families. We're conserved in our communities. We try to keep the things going on in our communities within the community. And so, when Black people see people who work journalism jobs and police jobs, the likelihood of Black people to open up to them is very slim, because they are seen as other, the ops, if you will. So Jordan said, I reluctantly declined, but her offer legitimized and needed me to be seen as one of them too. I thought that it was a really good way to remind us that Jordan is not a quote unquote regular member of the Black community. She is an op. She is the ops. On page 183, Jordan said something that I basically read as, why do women enjoy true crime? Well, Elmo, that's a good question. I enjoy true crime. A lot of the women that I associate myself with enjoy true crime. That's a very good question, and I have a theory. I'm thinking maybe women enjoy true crime because a lot of the victims of true crime events are women. And maybe we're always trying to find a way to be safer. I'm unsure. It's not something that I consciously do. I naturally gravitated towards true crime. But maybe there's something there. I have not done enough research on this. I haven't read enough articles to tell you why exactly women love true crime. But if you have any idea why we love that stuff so much, could you tell, Elmo? Moving on, I have a quote on page 184 that reads as follows. A killer might put themselves in proximity to the family to see how the family is reacting to what they've done. They can also do this to eliminate themselves as a suspect. Some also sit back and watch from a distance to simply get off on watching the destruction they've done to others' lives. Clock that T, because now that I've finished the book and I know what I know, this is tea. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. While Louise did not kill Macy James, nor did she kill the young lady who died later in the book, I think her name is it Trina? Tiana? Tanya. So while Louise was not the person that killed Macy James nor Tanya, she was, however, knowledgeable that her chosen nephew was one of the suspects who did. It's funny to think that Louise, a very present activist, a very out loud person in this entire situation, saying that justice needs to be, brought. But it's just interesting to see how involved Louise was in assembling people and speaking at the events, and how hands-on she was, just for her to know so much and to still be complacent in letting Macy and Tanya's killers go free. I'm still spoiling. The killers were this guy named Terrence, of whom Macy James had an inappropriate relationship with. Mind you, Terrence was 30. Macy James, a 15-year-old, had an inappropriate, open, secret, I might add, relationship with a 30-year-old man. And why did I talk about Yvonne earlier? Because Yvonne knew it. Yvonne knew. And Yvonne was admittedly so guilty and remorseful. And for a while, I even suspected, Yvonne's Manny, to be the culprit of her death, but turns out it was Terrence, of whom she was seeing. It was y'all chat. When I tell you it was an open secret, Macy James was getting picked up from this man at school. A football player ID'd the man picking her up. A football player ID'd Terrence. Terrence in his purple gray sports car. ID'd him. It was an open secret, and yet nobody thought to tell Pamela. That's what I mean. I won't go into what I meant by that statement, but just know that that's what I mean. Macy's grown cousin Yvonne knew. Macy's grown step uncle, chosen uncle Manny knew. People at Macy's school knew. And yet nobody told Pamela. Where are the cameras? Because I think I'm being punked. Honestly. Yvonne blew me. Knowing that your underage cousin is thinking that seeing a 15-year-old is okay because you are hosting them in your house. You're letting their little play date visits happen in your house. That's not cute. So he was the first suspect in all of this, and the second suspect was Brent Carter, actually known as Alexander Brent Carter, who we later found out had been molesting his little sister. Something that Yvonne also knew and didn't think to tell nobody. Donkey of the day to Yvonne. And here is how these two people lured Macy James into the situation that she found herself in. Macy James wanted to be famous. Macy James was God gifted a brain that was very academically smart, but where her heart lied was in Hollywood and being famous. And so Terrence and Brent, with a made up business called I want to say Could Have Been Records, Mad Cash Talent Management. I'm sorry. Mad Cash Talent Management. That sounds like a flop ass scam. I digress. The baby was 15. She didn't know no better. But Terrence and Brent had this sham of a fake ass business called Mad Cash Talent Management. And they would lure little girls. Macy was no exception. They would lure little girls into their talent agency, would have sex with them, would kill them. And did I mention wouldn't make them famous? Would not make them famous. Who would have thought? But of course, these are children, these are little girls, and they don't know no better. I'd like to add that these are children, and children know no better, right? They don't. And so another quote that I would like to add from this book that I found very interesting, is people kill people they know. Serial killers hunt where they live. People, that implies humanity. People, that implies a human being with thoughts and feelings and morale. People kill people they know. Serial killers. This rightfully dehumanizes the killer. Rightfully so. Psycho. Sick in the head. Deserves no sympathy. Serial killers hunt where they live. Not a human. Period. Ate that. Tamron Hall ate that. She ate a few things in this book, but she definitely ate that. And so, unfortunately, knowing Luis's interference with trying to help Brent not only lay low, but even escape by volunteering her keys to him, just shows me that wherever a sick, unsavable man is, and I will never blame everything on a woman. Never in this life will I blame everything in a woman, but there is absolutely fact to what I'm saying. Wherever a sick, unsavable man is a woman enabling that bull. Is she responsible for the actions that a grown 30-year-old man decided to take? No. But is she wrong for enabling it? Absolutely. Hello, this is Editor Kim here in the flesh, not a voiceover, to tell you that on page 105, I find it ironic that Louise Robinson, the enabler herself, said, and I quote, "There is a pathology that runs through our community, Jordan. It places our girls in imminent danger every day of their lives. Before the police fail them, before the prosecutors fail to convict those who would harm them, there is, in some cases, a failure of the community to protect them." Isn't it funny that I have her quoting this on page 105, paragraph 2, but she was a part of the main group of people that failed the girls? Oh, absolutely. Louise even tried to tip off Jordan, telling her the legend of the red moly, saying wherever there's one, there's two. You told her there was two of these jokers. And then got mad at her and told her to get out of your house when she came to you saying that you knew more than what you were letting on. And you needed to say something. You needed to stop caping for these grown men. They is grown. They're grown. That's nasty. That's nasty. It's also interesting that Jordan was attacked by Brent, who was seen as the quote-unquote quiet one throughout the whole book. You know, Terrence was the real personality of the operation, and Brent was, the one off to the side, the low-key one, the quiet one, and yet he exhibited so much anger and violence when attacking Jordan, repeatedly saying, "You messed up, B. You messed up, B," while bashing her head in. Jordan said that her face was unrecognizable. It was just really interesting to see his behavior contrast with what was described of him. But that just goes to show in cases like these, people tend to present themselves as something that they are not. Brent outwardly presented himself as a low-key, quiet guy, but in all actuality, he harbored extreme violence towards women. And I just want to say the absolute nerve of Pamela to be as determined as she is to want to find the killer of her daughter. So determined to find the killer of her daughter. I want him in jail or dead. And then when the topic of your daughter possibly being sexually involved with grown men comes up, you shut down. You shut down. You just said you wanted revenge. You said you would even do it yourself. And now you're scared. You absolutely positively cannot be scared. Did you see the way that your daughter was brutally, disgustingly unalived? Nothing on this earth would have stopped me from exacting revenge myself if I had to look at the condition that my daughter was in. If I wasn't even allowed to see my daughter because of the condition that my daughter was in. Like, are you playing with me? I don't know. It didn't give. It didn't eat. I thought that her shutting down and finding that she was absolutely complacent and letting those 3 children that she knew dang well wasn't the culprit take the fall just because the children had found her body and decided to leave. The children found her body first and left and came back and left and came back and left again. I cannot rationalize the action of children. We cannot rationalize the actions of children because they're children and they're unstable, but they didn't kill her. It was literally scientifically determined that Macy James was killed in a separate location and then transported to that park under the L tracks. I've never heard of a 13-year-old whipping a car in my life. You really think a 13 and 11-year-old transported a body alone for miles? Did you think that a 13-year-old and 2 11-year-old children were able to carefully disembowel a 15-year-old that they didn't even know, that they did not even have a real life connection to? It was just silliness on my end, and Pamela's determination to give up really made me upset, and I thought that was a little unrealistic. Another thing, When I was looking at the reviews of this book, the main critique was, so Jordan sees a traumatic crime scene and then the next morning has brunch. That's what let me know that y'all don't have any journalists in y'all circle, because they absolutely positively deserve, they deserve to disassociate from their lives. My man works at the news station. Whenever my man is with me, he's not thinking about work. Jordan is a great woman. Why? Because even when she off the clock, she is absolutely positively focused on this case. But let me tell you, journalists absolutely deserve to disassociate from work when they're not at work. They deserve to have regular work lives. In fiction and out of fiction. In fiction and out of fiction, journalists deserve to go home to their families. They deserve to wake up and go to brunch if they want to. They deserve to have a sneaky link if they want to. They can do whatever they want to. Why? Because they can. Because they grown. How about that? Because they grown. How about y'all stay out of grown people's business? Stay in your place. Okay. Now, finally, the reason why this book is 4 stars instead of 5 stars is because at the end of this book, they did not chronologically explain what happened. That is one of my favorite parts of mystery books, is when everything is pieced together, you find out all the facts, and then during court, somebody, I don't know who, lays out everything that happened chronologically. I want to know what happened after Macy left Yvonne's house on her bike. What happened? Did she ride her bike all the way? Did somebody pick her up? Did she even actually ride the bike from Yvonne's house, or did that man pick her up? I feel like there are a lot of things that I wanted wrapped up in a bow at the end of this book that I don't think were. And I really would have appreciated somebody to just spell out what happened 100%. Yes, we found the killers in the neighborhood. Yes, Terrence is going to jail, and Brent is dead now. Well, Brent is not alive anymore because he jumped off a building because he's a coward and he can't face jail time. But what I'm saying is, to me, the mystery of Macy James still exists. To the people in the book, to the fictional characters, everything is solved. But to me, I don't know what happened after she left Yvonne's house on her bike still. I would have loved a chronological summary as to what actually happened. Just know that I absolutely had to get what I'm about to say off my chest. I just had to. I just want to say that towards the end of the book, I actually found Jordan a little bit annoying. I found her, ironically, as Ellen described, very, very reckless. Now, I understand that Jordan did not have any reliable colleagues to, go in and do things with her. But I think that stunt that she pulled where she went into Terrence and Brent's little hideout thing alone, I thought that was very dangerous. I thought that was unprofessional. I thought that was very reckless, ridiculous, unnecessary, all of the above, especially when she had backup coming this time to help her. So I found that very unnecessary and annoying. But other than that, I have no issues with Jordan. That is my one and only thing. Towards the end, she was a little bit annoying because she was moving sloppy. There's nothing else to talk about. So, I'm going to leave y'all alone until next time. Y'all be good, because I know I won't.